Newsfirst Newsline.
Very good evening to you. You're watching Newsline. I'm Chaturanga Hapuarachchi. I'm going to keep you company for the next half an hour. Today we have another interesting guest in our studio, Mr. Harpo Gooneratne. Thank you, Mr. Gooneratne, for agreeing to be a part of the show. We have a lot to discuss, especially since you're the president of the Colombo City Restaurant Collective.
Yes.
We have a few things to discuss in that area as well, especially the economy, how COVID-19 is affecting you all, and overall how you all are managing to go through this current patch. So let's start there, Mr. Gooneratne. Now, we know that there were a lot of new people entering the market, especially end of 2019, starting 2020, the first few months. But obviously there were lockdowns, travel restrictions, curfews, COVID-19 happened. I want to start our conversation from a different angle. A lot of these establishments are located obviously in very important areas, city of Colombo, but populated areas. So the land value was anyway very high. The rent was very high for these people. And there is this understanding or a sentiment that at the end of the day, restaurant owners try to put that rent and the other amenities, the cost of it onto the product and therefore indirectly on the people. Firstly, do you agree with that argument, and what is your view on that?
Yeah, so anyway, good evening, thanks for having me on the show. But it all depends on, actually it all depends on location, you know, as very rightly as you said, you know, if you're based obviously in a high density area like Colombo, your rentals are obviously high, but if you go out into places like Bathurumula, Rajagiri, your rentals kind of, you know, are not as high as that. So to answer your question, yes, I mean, obviously if you're Colombo centric and you're having restaurants there, you tend to pass it on onto the customer because you know
I mean at the start, I mean you all are private businesses and there's nothing wrong with the way you handle the business, so it's not like you are doing a charity, so we have to understand that, and then it's business. But I'm anyway asking that question because there's a lot of people thinking
also what
that.
you have to understand is, you know, we keep talking about COVID-1, COVID-2, COVID-3, why don't talk about 2019 Easter Sunday? You know, so from a restaurant point of view, it's been like it's been 2 years of real struggle, you know. So yes, you know, you recover from 2019, it took time to recover, then we had a decent November, December, January, then again you got back with, you know, I don't have to continue, you know, obviously what happens there. So, you know, so you tend to obviously, you know, pass it onto the customer. Yes, also it's not only just passing on that to customer of rental, you know, your food cost is high as well. Today, you know, your importation of, you know, for example, I talk like cheese, for example. So those things are all expensive items, you know. So where do you pass this on to? You don't run a business to make losses. You know, you run a business as a businessman. You run a business to make money. You know, but when your cost is going up, you know, you have to pass it on to somebody else, you know, and the first person who gets hit is the customer, you know. But it's also how you manage your business. At the end of the day, is how you do your staffing. So it's a process of how you control what you're doing. And that is the most important thing, you know. So if you're a smart businessman, I mean, you first take your overhead, see how you can prune it down, and then you go back and strategize and see how you move forward, you know.
Mr. Gooneratne, now that being the case, if you are actually passing too much of it on to the customer, I don't think anyone would want to go and eat or dine there.
No, so absolutely right. So that's what I say. So you have to be smart enough to know how you pass it on. But like I said, you know, you need to bring your cost down. So if you bring your cost down, like your energy cost, your purchase cost, your beverage cost, I mean, those all add up. So if you bring those down, then you're in a kind of a middle playing field, you know. So then you don't really pass it on, because let's not forget, customers are also very sensitive and times are hard. So it's how you strike a balance there, you know. And I think any smart restaurant or any smart businessman will understand that, you know. So it's a matter of how you balance the scales.
Absolutely. You know? Mr. Gooneratne, you're the president of the Colombo City Restaurant Collective, which means that, you know, you have the opportunity to understand the problems faced by the collective of the owners of restaurants in Colombo. What do you feel are the main problems that you all face, apart from the COVID? We'll get to that in a bit. But the practical issues that you all face at the moment?
I mean, practical issues are, of course, it obviously relates to what, like I said before, it's from the 2019 to what we are going through right now. So it's very interrelated, intertwined when you talk of stuff of that nature. But what we are going through is a lot. You know, we are going through it, your staffing issues, you're having issues with purchasing, you're having issues of, it's a stop-start situation. So when you have a stop-start situation, it's very tough, you know. Yeah. So most restaurateurs are going through that, you know. Places which had high population of guests coming in are now not seeing that anymore, you know. Popular destinations are not seeing those anymore. So the staff are, at the end of the day, the staff get the brunt of all this, because, you know, you have restrictions where you can't bring in staff, so it's a 25% of your staff which can be brought in. So then you have then you obviously look at, you know, how do you compensate these guys, you know. So those are issues which you have. And obviously you have issues of like I said before, purchasing. You know, the items are not available now because of the restrictions the government has put on, you know. Where you're not allowed to import certain things, which in a way also, I think, you know, becoming self-sufficient is an important thing, and I think that's a good way to move forward. Long term, that should help, you know. So those are the things which the restaurateurs are facing. And of course, you know, the high cost of rentals and stuff of that nature, where certain restaurant, you know, landlords have been very, very courteous and have been very nice to certain restaurants where they have brought the price down, who are in the game with you, so which makes a lot of sense for us, you know.
But Mr. Gooneratne, you brought up the point of being self-sufficient, but if you want to import cheese from Switzerland, you have to import the cheese from Switzerland.
I mean, you have no choice. Yeah, you have to. It comes at a price, you know. But long term, we must be able to start producing our own things, you know.
Right.
I mean, I think that's what it's all about, you know. So, you know, that's what we are looking at.
And you, as the president of this movement, this collective, do you think that when it comes to decision making overall, especially in the policy making level, do you think you're represented properly? Do you have issues there in terms of representation?
Yeah, I know, that's a good point. You see, this association was built just before 2019 April, Easter Sunday, you know, but actually it fell into place pretty well.
Right.
So to answer your question, yes and no. You know, yes, we have appealed to authorities. Authorities have, you know, some of them have, given us certain restaurants have got moratoriums who are registered with the Sri Lanka Tourist Board. They have got that opportunity to go out, take the moratoriums and work with, you know, reputed banks, you know. But there are times our voices are not heard, you know. So it's a matter of, you know, how you cannot forget that we as a restaurant collective, we employ more than 5,000 to 10,000 people.
A lot of people.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
We, from a tourism point of view, we run some venues which attract a lot of tourists, attract a lot of local tourists.
Correct.
You know, so we bring a lot to the economy as well. You know, we cannot be forgotten.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what we always try to emphasize. You know, that we bring a lot to the table, and you need to listen to our grievances as well. So there have been times that they have taken us and had discussions. And there have been times that, you know, we are overshadowed by certain things. But what do? You know, we just keep trying to move forward, and that's the only alternative for us.
Absolutely. Mr. Gooneratne, now we have to talk about the current impact as well. I mean, as you mentioned, you have to cut down staff with the regulations that are in place. You can't obviously bring people into your restaurants. With that being the case, people losing their jobs is a problem, especially in the sector that you represent. So with that being the case, how do you balance that? I mean, I understand that needs to be done, but that also has a human side to it. So how do you balance both ends?
You see, I think for the Colombo Collective restaurants, most restaurant owners have retained staff. You know, for example, we have retained our staff. Yes, you'll have one or two people dropping out because, you know, they need to move on, and, you know, they cannot, you know, they also need to depend on some kind of income. So but overall, you know, we have tried to keep them with us, because if imagine the job losses, and it's going to take a bigger economic hit to the country. More people losing jobs. So we have been able to bring them in 15 days. Obviously, you know, there's a stipulated by the government what you have to do, basic payment, basic salaries and stuff of that nature, which we are adhering to. All the restaurants in the collective are adhering to that, you know. But yes, there have been people who are dropping out of the restaurants, finding other jobs. I mean, it's not only in Sri Lanka. I mean, you see overseas, you know, a lot of people, because the restaurant industry, the hospitality industry is not an easy industry to be in. It's a 12-hour, 16-hour industry.
Yeah.
So people are looking for other things now to venture out on, starting up their own stuff as well, you know. Even you see this in the US, you see it in Europe, a lot of people are moving out of the industry. Even places like big chains like McDonald's, I read an article recently, are finding it difficult to get staff.
Correct.
So obviously, that you know, there's an impact on the industry for sure. You know.
Mr. Gooneratne, now what I understand is that apart from a very high number of local tourists traveling to restaurants based in Colombo, there is a very high portion of foreign nationals also coming in. But obviously, for the past year or so, we have not seen that.
Definitely.
But I want to ask you this question because I want to follow it up with another one. Who do we see more in terms of the tourists that we see? Is it an absolute mix, or do we have a specific country that, you know, travel to our restaurants more often?
I mean, you see the Indian tourists coming in. I mean, before COVID, you see the Indians, you see the British tourists coming in as well. Yes, you've seen the Australians market also coming into Sri Lanka. So you had that before 2019, before April. Then it took a dip, obviously, like I said before. But it did pick up to a certain extent, but not to the full capacity of what we saw in 2018. You know. When you had about 2.2 or 2.3 million tourists coming in, you know, which was fantastic, you know. But you obviously you see a lot from the Indian market and the British market coming.
Now to my other question. This is a political question. I mean, but I'm going to ask you anyway. We as a country and as our government, we decided to open our country to tourists without inoculating at least 50% of our population. Firstly, how do you view that as a person in the business? You see that as
okay, let me put it this way. We are in the hospitality sector. We are frontline people. You know? I don't think the government has given us any priority when it comes to the hospitality industry. Forget restaurants. The hospitality industry are frontline people. And I'm told that they haven't got the vaccine as yet. You know?
You haven't received it?
No, I haven't received it yet. But, you know, we are obviously hoping to get it. But, you know, I made contact and they are looking at, I have discussed it from the collective restaurant association point of view, and they have promised to give it to us. So those are priorities actually, you know, that we need to get that done, yes, for sure.
Mr. Gooneratne, with that, let's cross over to a short commercial break. We have to check the headlines of the Prime Time English Bulletin. We'll be right back.
News First, Newsline.
Welcome back to the show. We are in discussion with Mr. Harpo Gooneratne about the restaurants in Colombo and the problems that they're facing with regards to the COVID-19 situation in the country. Before we went into the break, we spoke about several key things. Now I want to sort of draw from our last discussion and come to the point that we spoke about the inoculation, we spoke about the vaccine. Now, we also understand that even at this moment, when there are travel restrictions imposed in the country, delivery of pre-cooked or cooked food is allowed.
I think that's something which it's a saving grace for the restaurant industry. At least, you know, you are able to have some kind of income coming through, you know. And most of the delivery platforms are operating. And I think what they have done is they have kept. The government has made it a mandatory that the restaurant industry is been recognized and that we are allowed to deliver food. So that is a good thing, you know. So we have been able to deliver food and pre-cooked or whatever we deliver, you know.
So are you all able to cover the costs in comparison to a normal situation, or how does that work?
You will never be able to do it. I mean, maybe certain restaurants, you know,
they're small.
It's how you scale your business, you know. If it's a smaller mom and pop kind of coffee shop or something, yes, because your overheads are small. But I don't think it's nowhere near what you would actually make on a normal evening, you know, or a normal day for that matter. But we have to be thankful with what we have actually, you know, and at least you know, get that area going. At least, you know, staff are being allowed to come in, so you know, so that kind of thing. There's some kind of revenue stream coming into the business. So I mean, we have to appreciate the fact that has happened. You know, being allowed to deliver food, which is good.
Mr. Gooneratne, now let's when you focus your attention on the future,
Yeah.
People are going to definitely be more concerned about the health situation in the future when they actually the country and the situation becomes better and we can actually travel to a restaurant and sit and
Yeah.
have some food.
Yeah.
But before that also, especially in your restaurants, we saw certain eco-friendly measures being taken. A lot of restaurants went down that path. Do you think you'll have to spend more now, taking into consideration the situation? Health is important. I mean, you all are dealing with food.
Yeah, so I think it's something new that we all learnt after when COVID first hit us. We would have never thought of wearing masks in restaurants. We never thought of sanitizing. Coming into a restaurant where you have to sanitize yourself and do social distancing and all that. Yes, it was something new. We had to invest in that, and I think it's gonna stay for a very long time. And I think people have got used to it, and there's no one complaining about it. Yes, it's not 100% in tow, but you have certain restaurants, certain places which are very, very strict about it, and people are used to it. And people are going to learn to live with it.
So you think it'll stay?
I'm sure it'll stay for another at least a year or two or more. It will stay, And people are worried about their health, obviously, And people do call and ask restaurants whether we have social distancing, whether how you see now most menus are on QR codes. So the whole industry has changed after this.
And do you think that it's a welcoming change? Because
I think it's a welcome change. I think it's a welcome change. There's less cost. You don't have to print menus now. You come scan something. Your menu is on your phone. So from that area, those things are good things. And you have obviously put a lot of energy into staff training. Restaurants are doing that. The hotel circuit is doing that. You're revisiting a lot of new things now in your balance sheets and various other things. So it's something you never wrote in your business plan what a COVID one or what COVID is. But it has also, obviously there's an up to it as well. We will never be able to recover for a long time. If you look at revenues, it's going to be tough for us. The tourism has to come back to us. Borders have to open up. But it's how we hold out for the next, I would say, for the next 6 months, and being able to bring down, like we said at the initial discussion, how we manage cost. That's the bottom line.
I would want to ask you this question from the perspective of a senior personality in the business, rather than the president of the association that you represent. Now, there are a lot of people who came into the business who cannot obviously sustain because of the current situation, but we also understand that when there are a lot of players, that's high competition for other people as well. But irrelevant of that being the case, what can you tell these new players to sort of, is it the right time to hold on? Should they hold on? Should they, move on? What is your?
I think if you start something, the first time you've got to be positive. So if you're not a positive person, obviously you're going to throw the towel in. I mean, anybody coming into the business. I mean, it's very funny that you asked me, because I see more and more restaurants actually opening up. If you look at the big shopping malls coming up, there are restaurants opening up there. So there are people opening restaurants. A lot of people think the food business is a very lucrative business. Is it a lucrative? It's an essential. People have to eat. People have to dress. People have to eat. So I think it's a lucrative business. If you, like I said, it's how you manage it and how you run it. And how you maintain your standards and how you bring your customers in, the kind of food you serve. So the restaurant industry is a growing industry. There's no doubt about that. Like you said, yes, there are a lot of new people who are coming to the market after COVID-1, COVID-2. A lot of restaurants open up. So obviously they know something that maybe you and I don't know. So I think it's a good thing. And I would tell anybody, if any new restaurant you're coming in, is do it with passion, manage your cost. And yes, it's a good business to be in if you know how to run it, for sure.
And the flip side of that is, when there are a lot of people in the same industry, there is a very high chance that either the quality could increase, the standard could increase, or the standard could very drastically go down. So how is that going to affect the industry?
You see, you have a lot of people who also, in the same tone, you have people who open up and close up overnight. So it's how you as a restaurant owner manage to keep the consistency. And today people come to restaurants because they come to see what the consistency of a restaurant is, and people come back, and people want food, you know, and people want consistency, people want value for money. That is important, you know, value for money as well, you know. So, you know, why would you walk into a restaurant and see good food, good ambience? You know, I always say clean toilets. Those are 4 or 5 very important things that you need to run a restaurant with, you know. Definitely. And good staff, you know.
But Mr. Gooneratne, big players like you may be able to do all of this and survive. But absolute new player into the industry, do you think they can hold on? I mean,
it's how you, if it's a new player coming in, at what scale is he coming in, and what scale is he, you know, pitching at? If it's a kind of, you see what has happened also, what you have to realize is a lot of people were out of jobs. There are delivery platforms today. A lot of people are having mom and pop shops from home. They're delivering food. So which is also, you know, today it's on a click of a button, you can get anything you want. You know? You can be at home, you can be anywhere, you don't need an address. You know? You don't need a new on site to say, I have a restaurant. You know? A lot of blind kitchens opening up, you know, I call them virtual kitchens. And those are working because there is a demand for food. It's very simple. So it's the consistency, it's the price level you come at. So those are the things which people are looking at, you know, quality.
All in all, final few minutes of the show. Yes, the objective is to remain positive. But when you don't get this into your hand, it's a bit difficult to do that. So again, big players may be able to do that, but not the case for everyone else.
You know, even the big players are suffering. Let's be very honest about it. You know, there's nothing to, you know, con about. You know, like I said, it's not COVID-1, COVID-2. It's from Easter Sunday. You know, we as a hospitality industry has seen everything. You know, we have seen the tsunamis, we have seen the 30-year-old war, we have seen everything. But I say, as a nation, we are a very resilient nation, and we will come back. And obviously, you know, it'll take a bit of time, but we'll come back, and we have to stay positive and look positive as well. You know,
the people who are working for you, again, maybe I'm going back a bit, but. What I wanted to ask you was, when you all are engaging with the people on a daily basis, even right now, the people that are working for you have to move with the delivery people, then they in turn go and meet the normal customers. I want to specifically ask you this once again, the inoculation process, and you mentioned that you're in discussion with, but how far have you been successful thus far?
I think probably by about 2 or 3 weeks time, we should be the frontline hospitality people should be getting it. I was informed. And I think that will be a great thing, you know, it will give a lot of confidence into the customers' perspective as well. So that will happen, and, you know, then obviously, you know, people will start rolling back slowly into the restaurants or into the hotels for that matter, and we'll just have to, you know, ride this out, and we all have to come together and cooperate and make it come. And it's going to be a long haul if each person pulls different way. We have to come together, and we have to fight this thing together, you know.
Thank you, Mr. Gooneratne. It was absolutely wonderful to have a chat with you. And it's the end of the week. I hope you have a great weekend as well. Stay safe. You have to stay at home. We urge our viewers also to stay safe and stay at home these 2 days. And we'll all be able to soon go to one of these restaurants and enjoy a meal. We also remind you to stay on TV1 and watch the primetime English news bulletin that is coming up shortly. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chaturanga Hapuarachchi.